Have you ever felt called by a higher power for a chosen mission? Like you're the chosen one? That nagging sensation that you're here for something more? That your difference, your depth, the way you see the world actually means something? That maybe you're meant for something greater than this ordinary life? If you're an introverted, introspective person who relies on intuition as your primary way of perceiving reality, what we call the deep intuitives, this feeling probably haunts you. In modern typology language, these are the INFJs, INTJs, INFPs, and INTPs. And if you're one of them, you've likely carried this weight for years, decades even, this quiet, persistent sense that you're chosen for something. You're just not sure what. Here's what I want to explore with you today. What if that feeling is completely real? And what if it's coming from a hidden power inside you that could change everything? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand what's actually happening, why this feeling is real, not delusion, because there is a real power calling you, and it has chosen you. And I'll show you the major impact of what Carl Jung thought about personal libido in these dynamics. Maybe even find the starting point for a major shift in your life as we enter the new year. Let's start by naming what we're actually talking about, because if you've felt this, you've probably never said it out loud. It sounds too grandiose, too arrogant, too delusional. But somewhere inside, you carry this narrative that your suffering has meaning, that your isolation is temporary, that one day the world will recognize what you've always known about yourself, that you see things others don't, that you understand things others miss, that you're operating on a different frequency entirely. And here's the thing. This feeling doesn't come from nowhere. You are different. Your pattern recognition genuinely operates at a different level. You do see connections others miss. You do feel the symbolic dimension of experience that most people are completely unconscious to. You've spent your entire life being misunderstood, dismissed, or told you're too much or overthinking everything. So your psyche does what any intelligent system does. It creates meaning from the pattern. If I'm this different, if I see this much, if I feel this deeply, it must mean something. I must be here for a reason. And if you've watched my video on the 4 soul contracts of deep intuitives, perception without validation, authenticity, cycles of distance and return, and transformation, you know these aren't just abstract concepts. They feel like callings, like your soul signed up for something before you were even born. These contracts give weight to your life. They intensify that feeling that you're meant for something greater. But here's the question I want you to hold. Have you noticed that this feeling gets stronger during isolation? During periods when you're most disconnected from ordinary life? Because there's a reason for that. And to understand it, we need to go deeper into how the psyche actually works. Carl Jung discovered something remarkable. The psyche is a self-regulating system. Just like your body maintains temperature, blood pressure, chemical balance, your psyche maintains psychological equilibrium. It compensates, it adjusts, it sends signals when something is out of balance. And that chosen one feeling, it's one of those signals. Let me explain what's actually happening. When you're not living up to your potential, when you're neglecting your hidden power, abandoning your gifts, playing small to fit in, the psyche will call you. It creates pressure, a pull, a restlessness. That sense that you're meant for something more, because there's a gap between who you are consciously and who you are in totality. When major parts of yourself are unconscious, repressed, split off, living in shadow, the psyche registers this imbalance. It knows you're living as a fraction of yourself, and it creates pressure, a pull, a restlessness, a sense that you're meant for something more. You are meant for something more. That part is real. Your psyche isn't lying to you, but here's the reframe. You're not meant for some external destiny or cosmic mission. You're meant for wholeness, for integrating the parts of yourself you've abandoned, denied, or never knew existed. Jung called this individuation, the journey toward becoming your complete self. Not your ego's idea of who you should be, not society's version, not even your own conscious aspirations, but your actual, total, psychological self. The psyche has what Jung called a teleological function. It's oriented toward an end goal, not a life purpose in the external sense, but psychological completeness. The psyche is trying to make you whole, whether your ego wants it or not. That restlessness you feel, that sacred discontent, that's not prophecy, that's homeostasis. Your psyche trying to balance itself, to bring the unconscious into consciousness, to integrate what's been split off. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never feel this pressure because they're not conscious enough for their psyche to even bother. The fact that you feel it means you're already further along the path than you realize. But the psyche doesn't just create internal pressure, it speaks to you in other languages too, languages that feel mystical, magical, like the universe itself is trying to tell you something. Let's talk about those languages. But first, you need to understand how the psyche's intelligence actually works. During waking life, your ego controls the narrative. Your defense mechanisms keep you safe, keep you functioning, keep uncomfortable truths at bay. You can rationalize, suppress, distract yourself from what you don't want to see. But when you sleep, the unconscious takes over. Your conscious self steps aside. Your defenses drop. And the psyche, that deeper intelligence, finally gets to speak without your ego's interference. It can show you the truth you've been avoiding, the parts of yourself you've been denying, the wholeness you're capable of but afraid to claim. These are your dreams, speaking the truth you try to ignore when you're awake. Jung said, "The dream is a little hidden door in the innermost and most secret recesses of the soul." And if you're someone who's felt chosen, I'd be willing to bet you have vivid, intense, sometimes overwhelming dream lives. The recurring dreams, the ones that wake you up at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding, the archetypal figures, the wise old man, the shadow pursuer, the anime or animus, the scenarios that repeat with slight variations, like your psyche is trying to show you the same psychological territory from different angles. Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than waking life? That stayed with you for days, weeks, years? That's not random neural noise. That's your unconscious mapping the territory of your wholeness, showing you the parts of yourself you haven't integrated, the shadow you've been avoiding, the potential you've been suppressing. Let me show you what I mean. Maybe you dream of flying, not just floating, but soaring, free, weightless, transcendent. That's not random. That's your psyche showing you the possibility of rising above your current limitations, of accessing a perspective your conscious mind can't reach. It's the self calling you upward toward consciousness. What about dreams of being chased, running from something dark, something terrifying that you can't quite see? That's your shadow, the parts of yourself you've disowned, the aggression or desire or messiness you've deemed unacceptable. The psyche won't let you outrun it. It's trying to show you, turn around, face it, integrate it. And dreams of escaping, breaking out of prisons, leaving suffocating spaces, finding hidden doors? Your psyche knows you're trapped, not by external circumstances, but by the life you've built to survive, to protect yourself, to navigate a world that never understood you. The escape isn't out there. It's inward, toward reclaiming your real self in its wholeness, including the parts you had to hide. Your dreams aren't random. They're a mirror, but not of who you are consciously. They're a mirror of who you are in totality. The gap between your dream self and your waking self, that gap is exactly what the chosen one feeling is pointing toward. Your psyche knows you're capable of being whole, integrated, complete. And it won't stop showing you that possibility until you start doing the work to close the gap. But dreams aren't the only language. There's something else, something that happens in waking life that feels even more mystical. Let's talk about synchronicities, those moments that feel like signs, the book that falls off the shelf exactly when you need it, the conversation you overhear that answers the question you were just asking internally, the symbol that keeps appearing in different contexts until you can't ignore it anymore. 111. a specific animal, a phrase that follows you. If you're a deep intuitive, you've probably experienced these constantly, and they reinforce the feeling that you're meant for something, that the universe is guiding you, that you're connected to something larger. But here's what Jung actually discovered about synchronicity. It's not the universe sending you messages. It's your unconscious breaking through the rational mind. When the psyche needs to communicate something your ego is avoiding or can't yet understand rationally, it arranges meaning across the inner and outer worlds. The synchronicity is the psyche showing you. There's an intelligence at work here beneath your conscious awareness. Pay attention. This matters. Synchronicities aren't breadcrumbs to some external destiny. They're guidance toward what you've been avoiding internally, toward the shadow work you need to do, toward the part of yourself that's trying to emerge, but that your ego keeps suppressing. Remember that question from earlier? Why the chosen one feeling intensifies during isolation? Here's why. Because when you're disconnected from external validation, from social mirroring, from distraction, your psyche gets louder. The unconscious has more room to speak. The dreams intensify. The synchronicities multiply because you're finally paying attention to the inner world instead of the outer. You're not being chosen by isolation. You're finally hearing the call that's been there all along. And those soul contracts we talked about, perception, authenticity, distance, and transformation, they're not cosmic agreements made before birth. They're the unconscious aims of your psyche. The self knows what you need to become whole, and it won't stop pushing you toward it. Every dream, every synchronicity, every restless night is your psyche trying to fulfill those contracts, not for the universe, but for your own wholeness. If this is hitting home, if you've been seeing the signs, having those dreams, experiencing synchronicities, comment the word signs below. I want to know you're out there. But there's another layer we need to understand, because not everyone experiences this with the same intensity, and that difference matters. There's something we need to address about why this phenomenon is so much more intense for some people than others. Why you might feel this chosen sensation so powerfully while others seem completely content with ordinary life. Jung had a concept for this called psychic libido. He meant psychological energy, the energy your psyche operates with, and just like physical energy, it varies in intensity and direction between individuals. If you're a deep intuitive, especially an introverted intuitive, you likely have what Jung would call high introverted libido, a massive concentration of psychic energy directed inward, toward the unconscious, toward symbols, toward meaning. This is why your dreams are more vivid, why synchronicities seem constant, why you feel this relentless pull towards something more, that chosen one feeling. It's that your psychological engine runs hotter than average. If you're a deep thinker, an INTJ or INTP, I know that internal energy. I've seen it in my life. When it's directed, your mind creates structure and vision that others can't even imagine. That's high libido in the thinking function. If you're a deep feeler, an INFJ or INFP, I know the energy behind your dedication, your authenticity, your refusal to compromise what matters. That intensity isn't weakness, it's power. That's high libido in the feeling function. But more energy means more pressure, more communication from the unconscious, more demand for consciousness, a more insistent push toward individuation. And here's the critical part. That energy must go somewhere. It can go toward individuation, integrating shadow, becoming whole, answering the psyche's call toward completeness. Or it turns destructive, inflation, grandiosity, neurosis, escapist fantasy, addiction, or paralysis. The chosen one feeling is high libido with nowhere to go. It's psychic pressure building up because you're not directing it toward the actual work your psyche is demanding. So the question isn't, am I chosen? The question is, what am I going to do with this energy? Are you going to keep waiting for external validation? For the world to recognize you? For some cosmic mission to reveal itself? Or are you going to turn inward and do the hard work of becoming whole, because here's where everything shifts. So here's the truth. You are the chosen one, not in the way you thought. You're not chosen by fate, by the universe, by destiny, by God. You're not here to fulfill some grand external purpose that will finally make your difference make sense. You're chosen by your own depths, by your own unconscious, by the self, that totality of who you could be if you stopped abandoning yourself to fit in, to stay safe, to remain acceptable. And that's actually harder, because external destiny gives you something to wait for, something to hope for, a reason to endure. But this is a demand to work, in the dark, without recognition, without external validation, to face your shadow, integrate what you've repressed, sacrifice the ego's fantasies of cosmic significance, and become authentically yourself, not who you wish you were or who you think you should be. But here's the liberation in this reframe. You can stop waiting. Stop waiting for the world to see you. Stop waiting for your purpose to be revealed. Stop waiting for permission to be who you truly are. The call is here. It's been here. It's in the restlessness, the dreams, the synchronicities, that relentless pressure towards something more. But it's not calling you outward. It's calling you inward. And here's where we come back to that hidden power I mentioned at the beginning. As long as you believe that chosen feeling comes from outside you, from fate, from destiny, from cosmic forces, you're in a fundamentally passive position. You're waiting, hoping, interpreting signs, looking for external confirmation that you're on the right path. And all that psychic energy, that high libido we talked about, that intensity, that drive, it's constantly leaking outward, projected onto the universe, waiting for the universe to give it back to you as destiny. But the moment you realize that energy is coming from your psyche, not from fate, everything changes. Jung said it perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's exactly what's been happening. You've been calling your psyche's demand for wholeness, fate, or destiny, or cosmic purpose. But it's not external, it's internal. And the moment you see that, you get all your power back. You get it all back. Every bit of energy you've been spending on waiting, interpreting, hoping for external validation, it returns to you as usable power. Because here's what most people miss. The chosen one doesn't wait to be chosen. The person who actually creates, achieves, transforms, makes an impact. They're not waiting for cosmic permission. They're using their energy. Think about it. What would you do if you had absolute certainty that your purpose was real, that your difference mattered, that you were meant to create something meaningful? You'd start, you'd build, you'd create, you'd act. Not perfectly, but authentically. Not waiting for signs, but trusting your inner compass. And here's the paradox that changes everything. By giving up the fantasy of being externally chosen, you become capable of doing exactly what the chosen one would have done. Because you're not paralyzed anymore. You're not waiting for validation. You're not checking if the universe approves. You're not interpreting whether this setback means you're off path or if that synchronicity means you're on it. You know the energy is yours. The call is yours. The work is yours. The results are yours. And that makes you unstoppable in a way that waiting for destiny never could. This is the shift from passive to active. From am I chosen to what am I going to create? From what is my purpose to what does my psyche demand I become? From when will my destiny reveal itself to what happens when I direct this energy consciously? All that intensity you feel, that restlessness, that drive, it's fuel, but only if you stop pouring it into the fantasy of external validation and start directing it toward actual individuation, actual creation, actual wholeness. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose yourself, choose the work, choose the integration, choose to become who your psyche is calling you to be. And ironically, that's when you start actually affecting the world around you. Not because fate ordained it, but because you're operating at full power, with all your psychic energy directed consciously instead of scattered across 1,000 interpretations of cosmic signs. So what does that actually look like? What does it mean to answer this call? Let's get specific, because I don't want to leave you with just a reframe. I want to point you toward the actual work. First, shadow work. The parts of yourself you've disowned, the aggression, the selfishness, the messiness, the desires you've deemed unacceptable. They're not going away. They're gathering energy in the unconscious. Those dreams where you're being chased, that's them. Integration means acknowledging them, understanding them, bringing them into consciousness without acting them out destructively. Second, integration, not elimination. Here's what we're doing in this video, and what we always do on Wisdom and Happiness. We're not trying to eliminate the specialness of deep intuitives because you are genuinely different. We're not telling you to cut the chosen one feeling or inflate it. We're integrating it into the depths of your psyche where it can have its power without its shadow. The feeling is real, the energy is real, but it belongs to your wholeness, not your ego. This is shadow work, making the unconscious conscious so the feeling serves your individuation instead of feeding grandiosity. Third, dialogue with the unconscious. Dreams, active imagination, symbol work. This is how you actually communicate with the parts of yourself that are trying to emerge, not through thinking about it, but through engaging directly with the psyche's language. Fourth, living your truth, not your fantasy, becoming who you actually are, which is usually more ordinary, more flawed, more human than the idealized version your ego wants, but also more real, more grounded, more whole. Jung's goal wasn't to make you perfect, it was to make you whole, complete, integrated, unapologetic about who you truly are, including the parts that don't fit anyone's expectations. That's what your psyche is calling you toward, not cosmic destiny, not external recognition, not some grand mission, just you, the whole you, nothing more, nothing less. This work happens by doing what your psyche demands, integrating what you've split off, living truthfully, honoring your depths, transforming yourself from fragmented to whole. And you know what's interesting? The people who actually change the world, the real creators, innovators, psychological pioneers, many of them felt exactly what you're feeling. That sense of being called, of inner necessity, of having to create or transform or understand. But they didn't stop there. Jung himself felt it intensely. He described his own experience as being compelled by the unconscious. His psyche wouldn't let him ignore what was trying to emerge. But here's what he discovered. That feeling wasn't coming from external fate. It was coming from his own depths, demanding wholeness. The self wouldn't let him live as a fraction of himself. That's what you're feeling. Not a delusion, not something to dismiss, but also not fate choosing you from outside. It's your own psyche, your own depths, calling you toward what you're capable of becoming. And yes, that's uncomfortable, but it's also the most real thing about you. If this video gave you something, comment "chosen" below. I read every comment, and I want to know this reached you. And if you think this message needs to reach other deep intuitives, like it, share it, spread it. Someone out there needs to hear this. And if you're serious about going deeper, if you want to understand the psychology of deep intuitive minds beyond what YouTube allows, I write a weekly essay every Sunday on my Substack newsletter. It's where I explore Jung's psychology, the individuation process, and what it actually means to live consciously as someone whose psyche won't leave them alone. Link is in the description, and subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep exploring these psychological territories together, not for external validation, but because the work matters, your wholeness matters. And here's something to sit with. Of all the videos you could have clicked, you chose this one. Or did your psyche choose it for you? Maybe your unconscious knew you needed to hear this, needed this reframe to finally make sense of what you've been carrying. Final question for you. What would change in your life if you stopped waiting to be chosen and started answering the call you've already received? Think about it, and I'll see you in the next one.